Hello dear friends, glad to see you on my channel. Today we are going to talk about our favorite smiling critters, but not all of them as you might think, but more about two of them, namely Hoppy Hopscotch and BearHug. And there will be a nice bonus at the end of the video, so make sure you watch it till the end so you don't miss anything important. So let's take a look back with you at who is this Hoppy Hopscotch and what is she all about. I think you all know and remember that she is a member of Smiling Critters and is a Bigger Bodies Initiative experiment. And we all know that Hoppy Hopscotch is very energetic and loves action sports. But she's also described as very loud, bossy, and impatient. Another interesting detail I learned from her cardboard is that she doesn't take any dark turns. I suggest you keep this in mind, because we'll come back to it later. In Poppy Playtime, Chapter 3, we get to see Hoppy Hopscotch on her cardboard and as her mini version. From her cardboard, we can learn that she really wants to go to the moon and says one interesting phrase that it's not over until we get to the moon. You may have wondered, what won't it end? Well, it's simple. Hoppy Hopscotch is talking about the ill-fated "the hour of joy." Even on this cardboard, we can notice her negative quality, such as impatience, because after some failed attempts, we hear irritation in her voice. Well, and ends her cardboard, of course, with terrible screams. Unfortunately, in the third chapter, we never got to see the full-fledged version of Hoppy Hopscotch, but only her mini version, which were created by Prototype to control the whole Playcare territory. But don't be disappointed, because most likely we will see Hoppy Hopscotch in Poppy Playtime Chapter 4, and there it will be given a lot of attention. Do you remember that in my previous videos I mentioned Snidey Spidey, who we think will be one of the main antagonists in the fourth chapter? So, recently I found a very interesting passage where our beloved DogDay kills Snidey Spidey and then passes out. But then Mr. Delight comes to our rescue, and we transport the exhausted DogDay to the hospital to help him recover. The funny thing is that in the hospital there is a cardboard Snidey Spidey who was killed by DogDay a couple of moments ago. So while Mr. Delight is helping our comrade DogDay, our character decides to walk around the hospital and suddenly we notice the silhouettes of the already, known to us, green rabbit. But the funny thing is that she is running away from us, not the other way around. Our character decides to catch up with her and find out what is going on here. Let me tell you right away, it was not an easy task, because even from the cartoon about Smiling Critters, we can understand that Hoppy Hopscotch is very active and energetic. But when our character does manage to do so, we find Hoppy Hopscotch in a lighted room, huddled in a corner. And then she tells us that she is afraid of the dark, because when it gets dark, some unexplainable things happen to her, and that she is always hiding in this room, because it is the only place in the whole hospital that is constantly and well lit. But suddenly there are some interruptions with light, and Hoppy Hopscotch, with an alarming voice, asks our character to leave her as soon as possible, because now something terrible can happen, and then we see Hoppy Hopscotch get some demonic form, and our character has to run away from her. By the way, a useful tip for players. At this point, you will need a flare gun hand from the third chapter with charges of fire, because it is light will help to drive away the demonic Hoppy Hopscotch. A little bit away from Hoppy Hopscotch, we meet Mr. Delight, who has come up with a plan to help Hoppy Hopscotch. The plan is to activate the generators that are located throughout the hospital and lure the demonic form of Hoppy Hopscotch into the hallway of the hospital, because that's where the most light is. Immediately, our character begins to execute Mr. Delight's plan. Mr. Delight's plan comes to fruition by scaring off Hoppy Hopscotch with flare gun charges. When our character activated all the generators and brought Hoppy Hopscotch to the lobby of the hospital, Mr. Delight was already waiting for us there. But to our great regret, the plan didn't work, and the demonic form of Hoppy Hopscotch didn't disappear. And then Mr. Delight decides to throw a tranquilizer spear at her, which according to him will disable Hoppy Hopscotch and give us some time to fix the lights in the whole hospital. But then comes DogDay, who tells us one interesting detail, namely that all Smiling Critters have nightmare mode in order to scare away any strangers on Playcare territory. But luckily he knows how to deactivate this mode, but he doesn't tell us how, because time is running out and it's time to get down to business. So our character goes to look for energy blocks, the same ones we used when escaping from Miss Delight. After collecting all the necessary blocks and bringing them to the necessary place, DogDay explains to Hoppy Hopscotch that her nightmare mode is broken and she can't control it anymore, and that the only way to get rid of it is to send a powerful electric shock through her body, which will destroy it. Hoppy Hopscotch agrees to this experiment, because she can't live like this anymore and is willing to do anything to get rid of nightmare mode. Then Mr. Delight launches a powerful electric shock at her. Luckily everything was successful. The only downside is that Hoppy Hopscotch has a temporary headache, but it will soon pass. And then Hoppy Hopscotch remembers about his friend BearHug and tells us that she is still alive and that she is locked up. Hoppy Hopscotch also asks us to help her immediately and tells us that she is in jail. This is where our character immediately rushes to BearHug's aid. Before we break down the encounter with BearHug in Poppy Playtime Chapter 4, I suggest you remember who she is and what she's all about. BearHug, like Hoppy Hopscotch, is a member of the Smiling Critters team and is also an experiment of the Bigger Bodies initiative. Her character is described as kind, caring, and showing compassion to all. In Poppy Playtime, Chapter 3, BearHug we can spot in the form of her cardboard and as her mini version. By referring to her cardboard, we can learn that BearHug gets very attached to people. The conversation starts about love and ends with panic. An interesting detail is that, like Hoppy Hopscotch, BearHug has a reference to the moon. That's why in today's video I decided to tell you about the two of them together. Now, I suggest you go back to the events of Chapter 4, where our character goes down to the prison and meets the full-fledged version of BearHug for the first time. But not having time to let her out of the cage, she goes into a rage and takes out the cage by herself and escapes from us in an unknown direction. I don't know what happens next, but I can only assume that she is affected by nightmare mode, which we could see in Hoppy Hopscotch and about which DogDay told us. Maybe in the future, we will also be able to help BearHug to get rid of this mode so that she can live a peaceful life. Or maybe not, and then BearHug will be able to cause us a lot of trouble. And now I'd like to start with a nice bonus that I told you about at the beginning of this video. I'd like to tell you about a new hand for our character, which we are very likely to see in Poppy Playtime Chapter 4. This hand will be called Tesla Hand, and on the internet, I even found a tutorial on how to use it, so I suggest you figure it out together. The Tesla Hand is a modified green hand that can store 3 electrical charges. In order to charge it, we need to touch the source. We can apply these charges to the Tesla pillar, so when we activate it, we turn on all electrical appliances within a radius of 50 meters. Also in the manual, we are warned that we chose the targets wisely, because if you apply these charges to a person, it can kill him. I think this is a hint that with the help of this hand, we can neutralize monsters. Even if not kill them, at least incapacitate them for a while. So what do you think? Will we see Hoppy Hopscotch and BearHug in Poppy Playtime Chapter 4? And will we be able to help BearHug get rid of her nightmare mode? Or will she still give us a lot of trouble? Write your opinions in the comments, and leave your guesses as to what will happen to the rest of the Smiling Critters. I'd love to hear your theories. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like this video, because your support is insanely motivating for me to make the content more interesting. That's all for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.